Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the final character for Starship Troopers. We have the Skinny today. This really comes to us a lot more from the animated series, and we just kind of go from there. So, as the name suggests, the Skinnies are extraterrestrial species with skinny, thin appearance. Originally, the Skinnies were the allies of the bugs. They later switched sides to ally with the humans. They are referred to in a singular noun form or things pertaining to them objectively as skinny. So in the Starship Troopers novel, the skinnies during the Arachnid War are tall, aptly skinny humanoid species initially allied with the bugs. After several raids on skinny cities, the skinny government begins to feed information to the Terran Federation on the pseudo arachnids, which the Federation uses to its advantage in offensive operations. In Starship Troopers film universe, during the first Bug War, the United Citizens Federation launched a raid on the Skitties, or on Skinny space, utilizing Nova bombs against them in pseudo or to dissuade them from assisting the arachnids against humanity. Skinnies are referred to in Starship Troopers Invasion mobile infantry dialogue. All right, that's where we're kind of getting them from. And in one of the books, now this is a 1976 board game version of it. So it really begs the big question: when was Starship Troopers originally written? I guess, and that's something I don't know offhand. And that could be a conversation for some other time. But we'll get on to the skinnies here. I do have some more reading, and we'll get into that. And that's actually from the D6 Holocron. So, and I will change this so it's not so wide here. Okay, so the skinnies. Description: they came from nowhere, attacking with strange weapons before leaving as quickly as they had arrived. In their wake, they left only destruction and the realization that they had taken many of us with them. I have no idea what happened to the skinny prisoner. I'm not sure anybody does, but I wish them a quick death. Not long after that, we were dropping low and fast over one of their alien cities. Their buildings were strange, but I had the feeling my rocket launcher would turn them into rubble easily enough. Psychon was only giving us 10 minutes to level the town. 10 minutes, 60 buildings, one squad of troopers, plenty of time. So this is from Corporal Michael Doc Holden. All right. While the skinnies were originally thought to be peaceful, even pacifists, but the recent spat of savage attacks against the Federation interests close to the border planets of Ventus, Lalang, and Zai Butis have proven otherwise. Striking with unusual energy rifles, terrible incapacitating technology or technological devices, and clad in powerful suits akin to those worn by Psychon's own mobile infantry. While casualties to skinny raids have been few, losses have been troubling. With the exception of those trooper deaths caused by misadventure in battle, the skinnies have so far not been documented as killing anyone. While they do appear to have weapons of lethal capability, they favor the incapacitation and capture of their enemies, and survivors of such raids report that being struck by a skinny weapon is painful, disorienting, and can cause unconsciousness, but are almost never fatal. Unfortunately, both mobile infantry and colonists victims of skinny raids, whose unconscious bodies were dragged away and never seen again. Psychon has so far been unable to locate any captives once claimed by the skinny raiders. Whatever happens to the captives of the skinnies is entirely unknown, but military intelligence suspects that whatever their fate, it is anything but pleasant. Special service sensors uh, employed to find missing soldiers and citizens have been unable to detect even a trace of them, suggesting that the race may have some kind of innate psychic shielding. These same psychics have, however, been able to detect several locations believed to be skinny installations or outposts, though attempts to identify any kind of homeworld have met only with failure. More conventional investigation methods have also only yielded limited success. Um, though Psychon has managed to capture a number of skinny vessels and corpses, and while live captures have been less numerous, some have been made. Autopsies and questioning of these captives lead Psychon to suspect they can speak and may even understand standard English. However, to date, no meaningful communication with members of the race have been conclusive. With a lack of an identifiable homeworld or command structure, all attempts at diplomacy with the Skinnies have failed, leaving the Federation with one choice. Not wishing to commit the full resources of the strategically integrated coalition of nations to an all out war against a race of unknown capabilities, the fleet and mobile infantry have been deployed in limited numbers to defend worlds along the apparent shared border of systematic strikes have been launched against nearby skinny holdings to create an exclusion zone. All right. The UCF cannot and will not tolerate violence directed against its territories. If the skinnies do not seize their aids, these initial strikes will only become larger in scale and more numerous. There are, however, several located worlds under skinny control that the Federation has avoided attacking in the hopes of showing the alien race that humanity is not a barbaric race. With the limits on Psychon's patience, however, if the skinnies do not cease and desist their attacks, the Federation will be left with no choice but to classify them as a threat to humanity and decide or dedicate Psychon's forces to the eradication of their kind. The coalition of sky marshals have already worked out a plan to attack, um, called Operation Clean Sweep, a staged program of assault so overwhelming and large scale. It is considered an infallible method of dealing with the skinny menace once and for all. Clean Sweep has not yet been put into effect, largely in the interest of peace, but also because of the discovery of the arachnids on Pluto. Bowing to the ancient wisdom of not fighting battles on two fronts, Clean Sweep and the forces tentatively assigned to it have been placed on standby until Pluto has been explored and the threat potential of the bug presence there is fully assessed. All right, getting into the psychology that's written here on the D6. Skinnies are tall, gray skinned bipeds with thin limbs and knobby hides, ranging from 7 to 9 feet in height. These wiry humanoids are covered with gray hide with occasional greenish blotches. These this coloration seemingly either shifts throughout the skinny life cycle or are a sign of racial variation similar to or in nature to the skin tones of humanity. Their leathery epidermis is pierced in places by protrusions of bone, most commonly on their shoulders, elbows, and the length of the spine. Skinnies are completely hairless and do not appear to require surface respiration. Skinnies have a much higher blood temperature or body temperature of 45 degrees Celsius or 113 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature that would be fatal to humans who require a body temperature of 36 degrees Celsius and 96.8 degrees Fahrenheit. This higher body temperature causes a naked skinny to show up on a pair of snoopers like a neon sign. The appendages of the skinny are elongated and, as mentioned above, bear numerous bone protrusions. These protrusions come to distinct points and suggest that while they may not exhibit any pugilistic tendency now, their ancestors may have been physically hunters at some point in their evolution. The combination of their long limbs, thick skin, and height requires a remarkable, efficient cardiopulmonary and respiratory system to ensure proper circulation of gas and fluid to the structures of the body. Sex traits are almost completely concealed inside the skinny's body, and though there are certainly a gender difference, as of the dozens of specimens taken during their unprovoked attacks, nearly 50% of what SciCon researchers have determined to be females. SciCon scientists are still not prepared to confirm, however, whether or not skinnies reproduce sexually. Skinnies have four joints in every one of their three fingers, improving their menial dexterity by an estimated 12% when compared to that of a human. The most prominent feature of the skinny's hand is the sweeping talon on the back of the palm, which appears to be similar in nature to the dew claw of a neodog. This fearsome spike, is typically between 6 and 8 inches in length. However, some rare specimens have exceeded 10 inches. The unusual traits of the skinny hand are mirrored in the particular array of this race. While each foot has 5 toes, these are jointed in 3 places. Skinny's toes splay out in a wide fan, with the third or central toe being the longest at almost 12 inches in length. This fan of toes evaluates or elevates the ankle joint, as the skinnies appear to lack any form of heel. As with skinny fingers, each toe is tipped with a sharp cuticle. Skinnies have some sensory capabilities, or the same sensory capabilities of human organs. They smell, sight, hear, touch, and taste, with the tongue appearing to aid both consumption and communication. Scientists have so far been unable to attribute any function to the mandibles that lie to either side of the skinny's mouth, filled with a wide row of large incisors. Um, their other four senses are presumably as sharp as humans, though their sense of smell may be far less acute due to the reduced size of the skinny's nasal passages, the nostrils of which are situated between the bulging, close-set ocular organs, also giving the slightly caustic effect of methane or scent receptors. This would not be a surprising biological adaptation. It is likely that the skinny can see only in a red spectrum, in much the same fashion as a dog. This would certainly explain their proclivity for gaudy colored garments. Hearing is similarly no more acute than a human's audio sensitivity. Surprisingly, the structure of their ears, the 5 jointed appendages, similar to fingers that crest the elongated skull of the skinny, does not grant the same ability to sense vibrations outside their normal hearing range. It is possible that their humanoid evolution has robbed them of this capacity, or that on their homeworld, such a feature was never part of their forebear race that they came from originally. Regardless, these fingers serve as the skinny's um, aural organs capable of receiving the vibrations of sound waves across the surface before transmitting them to the brain. Their tactile senses are in no way limited by their dense layers of skin that covers the skinny's body. A skinny has a thinner layer of skin over his hand, feet, and face. While this is still noticeably thicker than the epidermis of a human, an advanced nervous system and a greater propensity of nerve endings seems to have adapted to this. Psychon scientists are, however, at a loss to explain this apparent adaptation, as there does not seem to be any biological reason for this degree of sensitivity, suggesting that this adaptation is environmental in nature. It is likely that if the Federation could answer the tactile riddle of the skinnies, they would learn a lot more about their homeworld. Psychon medical staff have been able to closely examine skinny cadavers, and in doing so, have uncovered a number of microscopic lacerations on the back of their neck. These lacerations have been subject to special investigation, as the small incisions and discoloration surrounding them form a distinct pattern that match other cadaver other cadavers autopsied by Psychon scientists. While military intelligence would have preferred to perform these examinations directly, it is their opinion that these marks are from a cultural patterning much akin to ritualistic sacrifice or securification seen on Earth before the disorders. They may indeed have some racial importance, but Psychon scientists have made the assertion that these lacerations indicate the presence of a piece of equipment or some other foreign object that disengages from the user immediately upon death. Okay, a little bit of reading here, a little bit into their biology, which is always wonderful, especially when we get into aliens and all that stuff. Some of the stuff for me always gets to be tongue twisters, and I get that. But hopefully, I didn't murder this too much as we get on to the actual skinnies themselves. So, skinnies having a 12 dice set for all their attributes, a dexterity. Like if you're going to run this as a character, which is how this is kind of set up here, is going to be anywhere from a 2D plus 1 to a 4D plus 1, having a knowledge anywhere between a 1D plus 2 and a 4D plus 1, a mechanical skill anywhere from, or attribute from a 1D plus 2 to a 4D plus 2, a perception uh, attribute of a 1D plus 2 to a 4D. The strength threshold goes from a 1D plus 1 to a 3D plus 1. And last but not least, technical being anywhere from a 1D plus 2 all the way up to a 4D plus 1. Now, it has a move of 10, 12. So, somewhere in that neighborhood, depending on how tall or whatever, you could keep it as a 10 for galactic standard. Or if it's someone that's a little bit taller, a 12 would very well be likely. Now, the size is anywhere from 2.1 to 2.7 meters tall. All skinnies do have low light vision, though very rarely rarely used, given a skinny's vast preference for range combat. They can use the vestigial claw on the back of their palms in the manner of primitive ancestors, being a strength plus 1d damage. All skinnies have a special form of nonverbal communication, nicknamed SkinnyCom by Psychon. Those skinnies can also use this to communicate with others of their own race. This ability does allow a skinny to talk silently and through any form of obstruction to any skinny within 20 meters. And there we have it. That's the skinny. So whether you want to keep it as a more of a bad guy or if you want to bring them into the fold for the human alliance, either way, here we are. That is offered here. So with that, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for joining me. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.